Today we're going to start a new series here that will extend over the next months or year depending on my disposition about the problem of the 16 personalities, starting with the INFJs. This series will be based on a post from Personality Cafe, which compares personality looping with mental disorders from psychiatry. And of course, it's just a theory, but I've known this theory for years and I think it makes a lot of sense. And in these videos, we will see why. And it's important that you understand cognitive functions or Jungian functions to follow this video, so you can check the MBTI videos here on my channel to understand a little better if you don't. The INFJ personality loop is the schizoid personality, which is usually characterized by people with very strong social detachment, always preferring solitary activities. They may seem very cold with little or almost no expression, very easy to confuse with autism, for example. These are people who can have a lot of apathy or emotional blunting. Internally, they may feel a lot, but it's difficult to them to express what they feel, what they think, which can make it extremely hard for other people to connect with them. It's not that it is hard for them to express, but it is more like they rarely do so. And many times, INFJs or schizoids are completely fine with this, strangely enough. And one of the things I remember hearing in college is a professor asking what characterizes a real disorder. After all, everyone has within themselves a desire for isolation. But when does that isolation, that introversion, becomes truly dysfunctional? That is the question. And apparently, when the person themselves starts to suffer from it, or even when other people around them start to suffer. For example, a narcissist or a psychopath, sometimes these people may not suffer for their actions, their speech, and the things they do, but they can hurt other people through them. And INFJs, despite being extremely empathetic and social and valuing minorities and the misfits and having this passion inside them, they can at the same time be very disconnected from the real world, from the social world around them, because they value this very idealistic social world in their heads. It's Plato thinking about the perfect world, the ideal society, or even highly romantic INFJs to idealize a perfect relationship in their heads that never matches in reality, especially when they are the type 5 in the Enneagram. And because of that, the INFJ can become completely detached from the physical reality and even from social reality as well. It's a loop between the introverted intuition, the NI, and the introverted thinking, TI. Too much idealism together with excessive thinking, creating this lack of external expression. And as Jung said, a person who is 100% introverted or 100% extroverted should be in an asylum, in a madhouse. And in the case of INFJs in a loop is precisely this excess of introversion that can end up happening, making them become either Elsa from Frozen, living in their mental ice palace 10,000 kilometers away from civilization, or in worst cases like Joe Goldberg and Gazayuno, turning them into stalkers who plan one day to kidnap their loved ones to live out the idealism that they have. And if you are an INFJ, I'm single, by the way. On Personality Cafe, it's written that these people are socially incompetent simply due to lack of trying. They don't express themselves, they don't interact, and because of that, they don't build the social repertoire needed to develop the social skills they need to relate to others. They constantly stay in the world of possibilities, but never make any decision. They are always doubting themselves and the options and never making any commitment to the choices due to excessive weighting of all of the options. Everything becomes a mental problem that needs to be solved in their own minds, in their own heads, and not in reality itself. NI and TI will build extremely elaborated systems, but they are just a cope to avoid dealing with the world outside their heads. These are people who won't care much about rules, about laws, about social norms, or even about adult life itself, since they are not using any function that references the external world outside themselves. And this is exactly where the Jungian psychology gives us some light, since a large part of an analytical psychology is about enantiodromia, a Greek word described by Heraclitus to talk about the duality of life. And for Jung, it's precisely about incorporating into oneself those aspects that one has been ignoring. If one wants to develop as a more complete person or reach individuation, in the case of INFJs, it would mean using more of their FE, the extroverted feeling, and SE, the extroverted sensing. This first function, the FE, related not only to caring more about the social world, but sometimes to creating their own social sphere as well. INFJs have a stereotype of being spiritual guides, of being leaders of groups, often religious, for example, as Jesus Christ, Buddha, Gandhi, but also Hitler, Osama bin Laden, and J.K. Rowling. These are all INFJs who achieved a lot of success in life precisely by creating social groups, whether of people with shared goals and values, or even fanatical followers of their ideals that border on criminality, like Harry Potter fans that hate J.K. Rowling, of course. On the other hand, SE is precisely about expressing oneself externally through physical sensations. And there are people who do this with their bodies and images, but also through their voice. For example, Tim Linderman from Rammstein, Serge Tankian from System of a Down, or Jordan Peterson. In other words, these are two functions connected to the external world. The INFJ needs to understand that no ideal world will be realized unless they put some of these ideas out there. Hermeticism can be extremely attractive, and I find it too. But one of the coolest things about idealization is precisely seeing your ideas become reality. And the only way to do that is by putting them out there. Either with people and groups of people who will help you make this happen, execute, and achieve it, or by communicating these ideals to others and seeing their reaction in the world. And also knowing how these ideals connect with the ethical and the values that this group or the group of people that society overall already has, and not one that you want to impose in them, just like, Hitler. After all, as someone once told me, words are also actions. And if that's the case, what happens when the INFJ becomes completely silent? What actions have you been taking? What idealisms are in your head? Sometimes, as the Bible says, ask and shall be given you, seek and you shall find. So, my dear INFJ, just put yourself and your ideas out there. Express your feelings, express your image, express your ideals. And even if the world isn't perfect, it's only by the intertwining between the external and the internal world that we can not only improve the world, but we can also improve our own ideas. My name is Julio Cesar. I'm a clinical psychologist in Brazil, and I'll see you in the next time. Bye-bye.